How would the people know? It's August 20th, 2026. Welcome to yes2hellwith.com. The Declaration of Independence says the people possess the right to alter or abolish a government that becomes destructive of the ends for which government was instituted. But there is a problem. Who decides when that threshold has been crossed? Government? The courts? The Supreme Court? Think about the contradiction. If government itself has become destructive of the purposes for which it was created, are the people required to ask that same government for permission to reach that conclusion? The Declaration doesn't say that. It places the right with the people. But that creates an enormous responsibility because the people cannot responsibly reach such a grave conclusion based upon anger, political disagreement, one election, one administration, or even one serious government abuse. The Declaration gives us something much more demanding. It speaks of a long train of abuses and usurpations. Those words establish an evidentiary standard, a train, something that can be followed, something that connects one event to another, something that establishes a pattern. So how would the people know? Build the record. Identify the government's acts. Identify the authority claimed for the act. Identify the constitutional boundaries. Determine whether that boundary or those boundaries were crossed. Document the injury. Then determine what happened when the violation was challenged. Was it corrected? If so, the system worked. But what if it wasn't? What if it didn't work? What if another institution was asked to intervene and refused? Then another and another. And what if the same thing happens to other people in other places involving other agencies and other exercises of government power? Now we have something different, not outrage, evidence. And this is precisely where the Liberty Dialogue system becomes useful. It gives us a disciplined way to examine government power without beginning with the conclusion. We start with authority, then jurisdiction, status, standing, obligation, and enforcement. And all over it and around it, we deal with presumption. We don't begin by declaring government illegitimate. We make government demonstrate the legitimacy of the particular power being exercised. Then preserve the answer, and we do it again and again. Because if government can demonstrate its authority and respect its constitutional limits and correct its mistakes, that evidence matters. But the opposite evidence matters too. Suppose government repeatedly exercises coercive power it cannot adequately demonstrate. Suppose jurisdiction is routinely presumed. Suppose obligations are asserted without adequately establishing their foundation. Suppose constitutional challenges are continually redirected rather than answered. Suppose institutions charged with checking government power consistently refuse to provide meaningful correction. And suppose we can prove it. Now return to the Declaration, a long train of abuses and usurpations. At some point, individual incidents become a pattern. A pattern becomes institutional. And institutional failure can eventually raise the question the Declaration itself places before the people. Has the form of government become destructive of the ends for which it was instituted? Notice what we have not done. We haven't called for violence. We haven't called for insurrection. We haven't told individuals to disregard the law. We have done something far more fundamental. We have asked the people to examine their government because the extraordinary right to abolish or alter government carries an equally extraordinary responsibility. Know why, prove why, build the record, establish the pattern, and determine whether the constitutional mechanisms designed to correct government abuse still work. Because if those mechanisms still work, we need to use them. But if the evidence someday demonstrates that they systematically do not, then the words written in 1776 cease being merely historical. They become a question for the people living today in this moment. What do you do when the government you created can no longer be corrected by mechanisms created to restrain it? That is where we go next. And as always, may truth reign supreme.